Okay, these are the examples for Algebra 2A, Credit 1, Lesson 1.1. All right, for problem number 1 and 2, what we're going to be learning about is writing a series of numbers either as an interval, an inequality, or a set notation. And so for number 1, we have the interval parentheses 12 comma 83 and then a bracket. Now the way this is written, it might look like this is written incorrectly because you have a parentheses here and a bracket over here, but there is significance to whether it is a parentheses or a bracket. And that's what it is that a parentheses means we're not including that number, and we'll show you how to represent that, where the bracket means we are including that number. So not including 12, but including 83. So as an inequality, using x to represent the number, we would say 12 is less than x, which is less than or equal to 83. And again, notice without the equal sign means we're not including the 12, but with the equal sign, we are including the 83 because, again, the bracket tells us that we're doing that. Now, set notation, and by the way, the inequality signs we should mention will always look like this. So we can read it as we read before, or we could say x is greater than 12 and less than or equal to 83. Set notation is very similar to the inequality. In fact, we could even start out by just writing the inequality. And then all we're going to do, it's kind of like a fancier version of the inequality. We'll take another color here to do that, is we're going to put set brackets around it. Let's try and draw that a little bit better. And put x with this little line here. And so the way this is read, again, it's kind of a fancier version of the inequality. We'd read this as the set of all x such that x is greater than 12 and less than or equal to 83. So very similar to inequality. Our example for number 2, what's different here is we're given the set notation and we have to come up with the interval and the inequality. We'll start with the inequality because as we just saw in the example for number 1, inequality and set notation are very closely related. And so to get the inequality from set notation, it's just this part in here. So all we have to do is literally just copy that. 12 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 15. Or again, x is greater than 12 and less than or equal to 15. All right. Now, for the interval, we are not including 12. So we'll put a parentheses next to the 12, but we are including the 15. And again, that's indicated by the equal sign. That line underneath the inequality represents the equal sign. And so we would put a bracket with the 15. And so that's how we would do that. So those are the examples for 1 and 2. And now let's take a look at our examples for 3 and 4. Okay, for number 3, let's go ahead and draw this here. Draw our graph for number 3. And we're going to do this. And let's see, it's a little small, but that'll work, I think. So what they want us to do for number 3 is to state the domain and the range using both set notation and interval notation. So we'll get a little bit more practice with that. So let's make this a little bit more clear here. There we go. And give us a little more room here. Okay, so first of all, for a set notation, our domain. So whenever we're talking about domain, we're talking about or we're referring to how the graph relates to the x-axis. And of course, the x-axis is our horizontal axis here. Well, we can see that the graph starts at -2 and goes to +2. And by the dot being shaded in, or a solid dot there, we know that that would include -2 and +2. So the domain, we'll start by writing it as an inequality and then just add the set notation. So we have everything from -2 to +2. And again, we're including those numbers, so we have the equal signs. And now we'll add in the set notation, the set brackets, the X with the line, and we're done. Now for the range refers to how the graph relates to the y-axis. And so again, domain, we think X values, range, we think Y values. So for the range, we can see the graph goes as low as 0 here, because remember on the x-axis, the y coordinate 0, and goes as high and does include +2. So the range, we would have the set of all y such that y is greater than or equal to 0, because we're including 0. We're including what's, because it does, we have solid dots on the x-axis there, the low point of the graph, and goes up to and includes +2. So again, the set of all y such that y is greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 2. Now to write that in interval notation would be like this. So our domain, we'll just use D to represent domain. -2 to +2, we're including both -2 and +2. So we'll put brackets for that, because remember the brackets tell us that we're including those numbers. And then similarly for the range, 0 to 2, including 0 and including 2. So we put the set bracket, and then from 0 to 2 would be our range. All right, so now that's number 3. And let's take a look. Number 4 is very similar, but we're going to take a look at what it would look like if we have a line for our graph. So let's go ahead and do that. We've got this here, the point down here, and make that look a little spaced a little bit better. And we have going up to here. I think we've got it. Okay. And let's get that 2 up there. All right, perfect. All right, so first of all, in set notation for the domain and range. And so again, keeping in mind that the domain is referring to how the graph relates to the x-axis. Get all this set up here. So our domain, so on the beginning here, if you want to refer to this as the beginning as we go left to right, we see that we're at -4. So again, the domain is how the graph relates to the x-axis. So we're starting at -4, and it looks like we have a solid dot here, so we're including -4. So we put that equal sign below the inequality. It's going all the way up here to 1, 2, 3, to +3, but there's an open circle here at +3, and so no equal sign below the inequality. Now, this is set notation, so we're going to put the set brackets and the X with the line, and again, remember how we read that. The set of all X such that X is greater than or equal to -4 and less than 3, just less than. All right, so now the range, of course, the range is referring to our Y values. And so that would be the set of all Y. And let's see, we didn't, let's go ahead and put our numbers down here. And we'll do that like they do in the packet. We'll only mark these by 2s. So it looks like the low point here is at right here, where this would be, this is 0, this is -2, that would be -1. So the low point of the graph is at -1. There's an open circle down here, so no equal sign. And again, we're doing the range, so it's Y, not X. And then we go all the way up to 1, 2, well, this is 4, so this would be 3 right here, so +3. And so up to +3 and including +3, because we have a solid circle, a solid dot there, or a shaded in dot. And so the way we would read that, the range is the set of all Y such that Y is greater than 1 or greater than -1 and less than or equal to 3. All right, now writing this as an interval notation, Now it sounds like a lot, but we're almost done. And we'll just use D for domain, R for range. So we are including -4. So we have the bracket, but we're not including 3. So we have a parentheses here. And then for the range, we are not including -1, and we are including +3. So we will have a bracket there. So parentheses, -1, and then 3 with the bracket, because again, we're including 3, but not including -1. All right, those are the examples for lesson 1.1 in Algebra 2A Credit 1. Good luck with those. We'll see you in the next video. Take care and God bless.